I've been kind of keeping my mouth shut on these shows so far just because I wanted to wait until I actually had something to say, and recent events have given me something to say. There have been too many people that I'm hearing about left and right that are taking their own lives, that are overdosing on drugs, and I'm really sorry to bring this up. You know, I know it brings people down and people don't like talking about it, but this is serious. There are way too many people giving up. And speaking as someone who has been struggling with depression for as long as I can remember, and someone who has been low enough to want to give up, I just wanted to provide some options of things that have helped me in the past in hopes that one of these things will help at least one person and get people talking, because we've been too silent. We haven't been talking about it, and I know that it's risky, but I just had to say something. So I made a long list, and I'm not going to read it all, but I just wanted to provide some options. So one option, when you're feeling really down and you just can't stand, your life, and you're just feeling a lot of pain, go be a kid. Go climb a tree, go throw a frisbee, go jump in a lake, go on a hike, go play. Go watch a Disney movie or a superhero movie, go and try to relax. Express yourself, that you can journal, you can paint, you can draw, you can dance, you can swim, go learn a new musical instrument, guitar, anything you want to learn, go try it. If you're changing things in your life, if you need to change your job and it's your job that's causing stress, find a new job. If it's your family, if it's friends, if it's people in your life that are toxic, then learn boundaries. Try to protect yourself, because in the end, it's only you that can protect yourself from life. We can't give from empty cups. We spend so much time trying to take care of other people. And I just wanted to say that I can't be that person for you. You have to be that person yourself. You can talk to a professional in several different ways. You can talk to a therapist and talk about your problems. You can, there's the Secular Therapy Project. Google it. There are tons of things. You may have to see a primary care physician and see if you need to get on a medication to start regulating the chemicals in your brain, because sometimes it's not situational. Sometimes it's not anything to do with your life or how unhappy or happy it is. Additionally, it's important to realize that you can be stressed out and have everything in your life be completely wonderful. Your body doesn't recognize the difference between happy stress and sad stress. And so even if you just the week after I got married, I got depressed, and my husband was confused, and he's like, we just got married. Aren't you happy? And I said, yes, I'm happy, but the chemicals are off in my brain, and I had to try to figure something out. If you are, figuring out that you're dissociating with drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or something that's, that you think is relieving the stress in your life, try to figure out and replace it with something, whether it's meditation, whether it's going on a walk, whether it's calling a friend, whether it's just, figure out what you can do, little short fixes, and try to replace your addiction with something healthy, exercise. That can find something that you like to do that's really fun. Stand-up paddleboarding is great. Yoga, find a ball sport and go on meetup.com and find some people that are interested in similar things to you. Create something. I've learned to crochet, and the fact that I can take a piece of yarn and create an entire blanket is hugely rewarding. And when you're finished with it, you can lay it on your couch and every time you walk by it, you're like, I made that. That's a really cool feeling. Read books, go get a massage. I'm kind of done. I just wanted to say that there are things that you can do to change your life, and you have to take care of yourself.
And to kind of jump in, yeah, thank you. So I don't suffer from chronic mental illness, but there was a period of my life where for a solid 18 months, in hindsight, it's clear that I was clinically depressed, even though for me, it was a situational thing. It was about a job loss and a bunch of other things happening, in my life around the same time. It's the thing that led to me ultimately, in part, led to me becoming an atheist. Mm-hmm. And so I would never pretend to know what it's like to deal with that on a regular basis the way somebody else does. but I've also been in a number of different relationships with people who had one issue or another. And you're right. Like, I can't fix somebody else's life. It doesn't matter how much I love them. It doesn't. And actually, in many cases, I've learned that almost everything I do to try to help can potentially make things worse.
Yeah.
Especially if you're dealing with someone whose brain won't let them think that they are deserving of that sort of caring.
Then they feel guilt.
And then it's like, oh, look, this person's, doing all this stuff to make, and don't they understand? I'm just, miserable. It's the resources, the Psychotherapist Project, there's suicide prevention hotlines and countless resources out there. But I don't want to diminish the value of community, because while I can't fix somebody's life, one rule that I made for myself years ago, after I recognized the state that I had been in, is I'm no longer ever allowed to stay at home by myself for more than 48 hours. If I've been home on my own for that long, I must get out and not just do something, but do something with another living, breathing human being. Because just going from my couch, being miserable and deciding I'm going to go see a movie, well, shit, that's identical to being at home, essentially. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for the fact that the ACA is now, the building's open 7 days a week. There are people up here doing stuff. If you're in the Austin area, there's a community here for you. And, we just all need to be aware. Let's not pretend that everything's going to be puppies and kittens and roses, and that we're going to, oh, you're feeling bad and now you've come to the ACA and everything is wonderful. That's not the way it works. But I think for most people, and everybody's going to be slightly different, not being alone is a big help in, especially if you can find people who are not only caring, but also honest, like to maybe call you out on your shit just a little bit.
Yeah.
Of, hey, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm spotting a trend, and because I care, I would, is this a figment of my imagination, or are you feeling this too?
Right.
And the other thing, and I had to learn this fairly recently, is that if you're in a position and somebody you care about, kind of shuts down, probably in my case, thinking that I could do things to help was probably one of the biggest mistakes I made. And I should instead just let them know that I'm there and available, give them the space, and I don't know, there's not an easy solution, and being as encouraging as you can.
But being on that side of things as well, being the person who's not depressed, who's watching somebody that you love going through depression, it's important that you don't keep asking them why.
Yeah.
Don't ask them to give you a reason, because they don't necessarily know, but what you can do is say, what can I do to help? Because I can't read your mind. I need you to tell me what I can do, because what might help me won't necessarily help you.
And if they can't say anything,
then
oh my God, don't hold that against them.
Don't hold that against them, and just be like, okay, well, you know what? I'm here.
Yeah.
And I, try to be that person that can just sit with somebody and not have to berate them with questions and not have to have a conversation. Just, awkward silences can be really nice sometimes. Go watch a movie together, go do a craft together, go paint together, and just be in silence together. But it's important that when you have somebody in your life who is depressed, that they don't get left alone for weeks on end, because that's when people get lost in their heads. So.
And another thing, we mentioned the Psychotherapist Project. A lot of people will talk about, what's the harm in religious ideas and stuff. And in many cases, I get it. If you think about it, religious individuals on behalf of their churches and their institutions have created hospitals and schools and charities and have done plenty of good things. And if that's all you ever focused on, it would be understandable for somebody to think, well, my beliefs really aren't doing any harm. And yeah, I think we've moved beyond, or at least largely moved beyond, blaming demons for mental health issues on a regular basis, but it does still happen. And the way it happens that I've seen recently is not, oh, you're possessed by a demon and we need to cast that out, although that stuff still happens. Instead, it's a more subtle kind of love abuse thing of, well, this is happening in your life because you haven't properly surrendered to God. It's not so much that you are possessed by a demon, but you've allowed the devil to take control of your life. And there's enough stigma on mental health issues. There absolutely should not be. We've talked about this ad nauseum in all kinds of different areas. But religions have done a lot of harm when it comes to continuing the stigma related to mental health issues. And they've done a lot of harm in offering up a proposed solution that is not in any way tied to science or the reality of how a brain works.
Right.
It is a completely, spiritual, metaphysical, ideology that, oh, there's something broken about you, but it's not like a physical thing. It's not like you've got a bad appendix, when in truth, your brain is yet another part of your body that can malfunction just like an appendix. And the fact that we treat it differently, that's a discredit to all of us. And for the people who, like us, who no longer have the excuse of blaming it on religious ideologies, we've got to do a better job of kind of dragging this kicking and screaming into the light so that nobody has to deal with that.
And that's why it kind of ties into this, critical thinking, because all we can do as humans, acknowledging evolution and the way it works is we have to learn from our parents. And we have to acknowledge the mistakes that our parents made and not just put them on a pedestal and say, oh, you sacrificed everything for me, so that means you're an angel and you're perfect and everything that you did was amazing. No. Let's take a step back and look at, okay, this was good and this made me feel good and this didn't work. This made me feel bad. So
and we got to make sure we don't do the opposite too,
right.
Which is, one of my parents was a terrible, abusive alcoholic who didn't care and left. Well, that can all be true, and without taking it as a statement on the person's character and who they are, the things that I just described, both with the alcoholism and the abuse and everything else, are all symptoms of other mental health issues.
Right.
And
that person is hurting.
Yeah. And it reminds me, people would say, oh, well, aren't you mad at your parents and your preachers for lying to you?
No, they don't know any better.
I don't think they lied. To me, lying is intentionally saying something you know to be
right.
false. I think my parents and my preachers were as honest with me as they could be, and they were as much a victim of religious indoctrination and flawed thinking as anybody else.
Exactly.
So I couldn't possibly be mad. I can be mad about things that they do, and the
right.
fact that, now that we've had a conversation, you no longer have an excuse to pretend like, oh, you really do believe in God, don't you? That's just passive-aggressive bullshit.
Yeah.